Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I am having a hard time filming videos today because they are mowing the lawns outside, so it's very, very loud outside. And then I came inside and I was going to read a comment from my video, but then I realized I was uploading my video on my phone, so I can't get to my comments. And then I was going to stand in the kitchen window and read a meditation where the light is wonderful in there, but I'm running the dishwasher, so I can't do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to go up to the bedroom and do another video in the bedroom, so I'm going to sit in front of my computer. I just sat down here and did a video for my Peter Does Stuff channel showing a haul. So, since I can't read a comment from today, since I already haven't picked a comment for today's video to respond to, I am going to read from the old tried and true Melody Beatty meditation books. I pulled them out and I looked at the titles of the meditations and I was like, okay, I think that these look like really good meditations. I just kind of skimmed them and I thought, well, we'll see. We'll start on one and we'll see where we get. Two, I haven't read meditations on here for a while because I have been responding to so many comments, which like I said, I love doing. So if there is something out there that you want me to share some life experience about, I'm more than willing to do that. Put it in the comment section below. Those are the videos that I am loving doing right now. But I also did miss reading the meditations because they always help me. So I thought the first one's about anger. I think we can always, any of us, work on anger, right? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to read this one about anger. And this is from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty. And the meditation is from today, July 18th. And it is called Time to Get Angry. It's about time you got angry. Yes, that angry. Anger can be such a potent, frightening emotion. It can also be a feeling that guides us to important decisions, sometimes decisions difficult to make. It can signal other people's problems, our problems, or simply problems we need to address. Page turn. We deny our anger for a variety of reasons. We don't give ourselves permission to allow it to come into our awareness at first. Understand that it does not go away. It sits in layers under the surface, waiting for us to become ready, safe, and strong enough to deal with it. So true. What we may do instead of facing our anger, and what it is telling us about self-care, is feel hurt, victimized, trapped, guilty, and uncertain about how to take care of ourselves. We may withdraw, deny, make excuses, and hide our heads in the sand for a while. We may punish, get even, whine, and wonder. We may repeatedly forgive the other person for behaviors that hurt us. We may be afraid that someone will go away if we deal with our anger toward him or her. Oh, wow, that's powerful. We may be afraid we will need to go away if we deal with our anger. We may be simply afraid of our anger and the potency of it. We may not know we have a right, even a responsibility to ourselves, to allow ourselves to feel and learn from our anger. God, help me, help my hidden or repressed angry feelings to surface. Help me have the courage to face them. Help me understand how I need to take care of myself with the people I feel anger toward. Help me stop telling myself something is wrong with me when people victimize me and I feel angry about the victimization. I can trust my feelings to signal problems that need my attention. It's such a powerful meditation. I feel like I remember reading it before. I've probably done a whole video addressing it. I kind of laughed at the end because I was remembering this situation back in the day when I worked in treatment. And I was working with this person and I remember like one day she was so angry. She was just in such a bad mood. And I like kept on asking her, I was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? She's like, I'm fine. I'm just angry today. And so finally by like the third or fourth time, because I was really concerned about her, I was like, are you sure you're okay? She's like, yes, I'm choosing to be angry right now. Because back in the day, we used to talk a lot about choosing our feelings, that you can choose your feelings and you can change your feelings. You know, you can start your day over whenever you want. And she said, right now, I'm choosing to be angry. I'm sitting in my anger so that I don't have to live with it for a long time. And I can remember I was at the time, you know, like 24, 25. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And today, I think at 51, it makes a lot of sense to me, you know, to be able to sit and address your anger and take a look at your anger, at resentments, you know, and having done so much inventory in my life, where you take a look at the actual resentment of who it is towards, or what organization or what situation, you know, and you take a look at that resentment, and then you take a look at what you're resentful about. This is what we do when we do inventory, part of it. And then you look at what area of your life that is affected, and then you look at, well, what's your part in that, right? I'm not a person today that wants to live with anger and resentment. I just don't, you know. It's not, you know, peace and serenity are not luxuries for me today. They are things that I have to have in my life to be able to function. I feel like the light is really bad in here, and that's even worse. Okay. Because I'm sitting right in front of my computer. You know, peace and serenity are not luxuries for me today. They're something that I have to be able to function in this world, you know? And I'm so grateful for the peace and the serenity that I have. I'm so grateful that I don't live in chaos today. I don't want to live in chaos. I don't want to live with anger in my heart. I don't want to live being miserable and resentful. I just don't, you know? But that at times takes me having to look at my anger and what I'm angry about, and taking a look at it, you know, and processing that with my sponsor or my therapist. And when you take a look at it from an inventory point of view, what you end up doing when you look at your part in that is that gives you some kind of sense of control over it, right? Not that you are responsible for the source of your anger, because there's things like justifiable anger, which is things that you have absolute right to be angry about. You have absolutely every right in the world to be angry or frustrated or resentful about, right? But that being said, you know, I have things that happened to me when I was, you know, in my childhood that I think anybody would say, Peter, you have a right to remain angry about that for the rest of your life. Okay. But just because I can, and that's justifiable anger, doesn't mean that I want to. It doesn't mean that I want to live in that anger for the rest of my life. It doesn't mean that I want to sit in it and be an angry, miserable person. And I have met many people in my life that refuse to work through the pain. They refuse to work through the anger. And almost at times, and I think it's difficult, and I think I have done this at times in my life too, so I totally understand it, have used it as an excuse to not be able to move forward in their lives, right? And they'll say things like, and I said things like, well, you know, like, you know, there's a saying in recovery that it's, if you had my life, you'd drink too, you know? And it's kind of the same thing. It's like, you know, like, well, if you had gone through what I went through, then you probably would have been using drugs or drinking too, you know? Or if you had my life, or if you had any idea the things that I went through and how bad it was, then you would have made the same choices that I did. Well, those are all kind of excuses to some degree, right? True though they may be, and valid reasons that they may be, at the same time, I don't want to stay stuck in anger, you know? I don't want to continue to be an angry, resentful, bitter person for the rest of my miserable person. I just don't, you know? I want to be happy, joyous, and free. And the only way for me to be happy, joyous, and free is to address my anger, confront my anger, look at what it's about, look at, you know, what's my part in that? Do I have any ability to control any of this? You know, can I look at forgiveness? You know, I love Oprah's definition of forgiveness, because usually the way to work through some anger towards a person or a situation is through forgiveness, right? And I think many times people think that forgiveness means forgetting that what happened, or just kind of being like, okay, we're good, everything's fine. That's not forgiveness, you know? And I don't have my phone, so I'll try to remember it. But Oprah's definition of forgiveness is accepting that what happened in the past happened. Not that what happened was okay. It's not excusing that what happened was okay and saying, well, it happened and I accept that it happened, and so I'm just going to move on and that's fine. It's not saying that. It's saying, I accept that what happened, you know? You know, we always use this example of like, don't cry over spilt milk. Well, okay, so you spill a glass of milk. You can't change that, you know? I mean, if we had a time machine that we could jump into and not spill the glass of milk, we would do that, right? But we can't change that. You know, we can't change a lot of things that happened in our lives. So what's our choice? What's our option in that situation? To live in that pain for the rest of our lives, or to work through it? Well, for me, part of working through it, I think it's interesting, like whenever this topic of acceptance always comes up in meetings, I always think to myself, well, what's the alternative? You know, you can either accept that these things happen, because they happened, whether we like them or not. These things that happened in our life, whether we had anything to do with it, whether they were right or not, you know, or whether they were horrible things that happened to us, and we absolutely have every right to be justifiably angry about it, they still happened, right? So I can sit there and resist it and be like, and live in the anger and the reaction to it. Or I can look at it and say, okay, well, what happened, and I don't want to continue to live in that. So what am I going to do about it now? okay, and come up with a plan of action. What am I going to do now so that I don't have to continue to live in this space? And like Oprah says, so I don't have to be hostage to the pain of my past. So I don't have to continue to be hostage to this situation that happened to me, because I don't want to continue to live that way. I don't want to continue to be angry and resentful, you know, and miserable and you know, and live in fear. I think anger and fear live very close together for the rest of my life, you know? And I love the one saying, or the one line in here where it says, hold on, where does it say this? We may be afraid that someone will go away if we deal with our anger towards him or her. And I think that's such a valid point. I have clung to relationships in my past, romantic relationships, friendships, work relationships, you know, even family relationships, where I was so afraid that if I said something about how I was upset or angry or confused over something that had happened, that person would cut me out of their life, okay? Well, in all honesty, in retrospect, now that I have confronted many of those situations, and now that I have set boundaries that are healthy for me, what is really sick about that situation, and I'm only talking about myself, so I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but the fact that I was willing to accept somebody treating me in a really horrible way, so that I could remain in that relationship or have that person in my life, I was willing to accept that, right? I mean, I stayed in romantic relationships that were not healthy for me, just so that I could be in a relationship, you know? That I would rather be in a sick relationship than be single and alone, because I was so terrified of being alone. I don't feel that way today. And I've done the work in therapy, and, you know, well, mostly in therapy, but with my sponsor as well, to really work at looking at my codependency and why I needed somebody in my life to define my existence, why I wasn't good enough just on my own. I don't feel that way today, you know? And for a long time, I lived with being so afraid that somebody was going to leave me that I absolutely would never confront anything that I was angry about, because God forbid I'd walk on eggshells around people and whatever, because I was scared to death, you know? And then what happened was, when I started expressing my anger, it went to the flip side. Then I was angry all the time, and I lived in anger, and I lived in rage, and I really never knew how to quell it down, like, you know, squash it and get it down and have it go away and have it silence itself. Today, I've learned to not be reactionary. I've learned to not live in anger. I've learned to address it appropriately, and I've learned to set healthy limits and boundaries, but that took me a long time, you know? It was kind of like when I started addressing my anger, it kind of like came out like a floodgate. So I think it's a really important meditation. I think we don't talk enough about anger. I don't think we talk enough about our right to be angry in certain situations. You know, people say, don't be angry, don't be mad at me, blah, 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 whatever. Well, you have a right to be angry. You have a right to be mad. But do you want to live in it? I don't want to live in it for the rest of my life, you know? That's me. Maybe you want to do something different, but I don't want to live in it for the rest of my life. So, got to do the work on it to work through it. Anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.